Good morning, everyone. My name is Miguel Magallon, and today I'm going to be doing a quick presentation on my curriculum, how I established an ever-moving curriculum, what I'm basing the curriculum on, all the finite details that go into it, and how I plan to implement that and use it during the summer for both of my kids, 10-year-old Susan Magallon and 5-year-old Orlando Magallon. And after this video, I'll update or upload a video showing their first assessment test, how the curriculum will be based using the information that I received doing their assessment test, and then one at the end of the 30-day cycle. The curriculum is a 30-day curriculum through my following videos that will be in pursuit after this. A lot of them will be labeled and tagged as, you know, training day 1, training day 2. It just means what day within that 30-day cycle the kids are in and what progress we've made. So jumping right into it, the assessment test that we're going to be doing with both the kids after this, really all we're trying to find out through the assessment test is we're going to give them a variety of questions, mostly 3 subjects. For Susan, the 3 subjects are going to be mathematics for one, social studies, particular history and presidential history, and then the last one being geography. Those are the 3 of the main subject matters that she will be facing when she goes into the middle school level and high school levels. English literature is one that's going to be a really big subject, but right now one of the things we can identify early on is that English literature and her vocabulary is probably one of her best strengths right now in regards to her academics. So the ones we're going to focus over the summer are some of the weaker points that we've already pre-identified, and again, those are going to be geography, social studies, and mathematics. With Orlando Magallon, because he has at a younger age, obviously, going into 1st grade now, the ones we're going to focus on more is English literature, mathematics, and probably just those 2 subject matters, and then moving forward, just kind of developing that foundation more and more throughout the summer. So as far as, again, what the assessment's going to do is it's just going to be a way for me to identify where they are in those subject matters and then develop a curriculum that'll be able to build that foundation stronger as they go into their next academic school years. The next thing in regards to the curriculum is how the curriculum will be taught. In a lot of child development classes or just educational courses overall, this is usually identified or labeled as a container. This is how the curriculum is put together and how it's going to be taught. So a good example is videos, how much time is lecture time, how much is actual doing the paperwork assignments that I'm going to construct over the summer. And then again, just in generality, how that information is going to be taught and how it's going to be distributed. Going into a little bit more context to that, one of the things I'll have to discover within the first 5 training days are if the kids are more of a visual learner or an auditory learner. This is really important because I think for all children, they have to develop a strong sense to be able to process information using both of those kind of pathways. Because in most classroom settings, they'll be taught a lot of things visually when the instructor goes on the whiteboard or they do a presentation or PowerPoint, and then a lot of times it's going to be audio-wise, and the teacher will just say something and expect that the students are writing it down. So sometimes if the instructor doesn't put something on the board and the students are then told, hey, you know, everything I tell you is going to be on the test coming up next week. Well, if they're a visual learner, it might be a little bit hard for them to kind of process that information and write down notes as to what they need to study in particular. Versus, you know, the other way around, vice versa, works the same way. You know, if they're a student that thrives more in an audio setting where all you have to do is tell them something and repeat it and they got it, well, if you do something where it's only on the whiteboard over and over again, that's how the phrase, you know, death by PowerPoint comes in, where they're not much of a visual learner. They just want you to tell them once and then they can go from there. But for this curriculum, we're going to try to enhance their ability to learn and process information using both pathways. This is really important because I want them to be able to be taught using both ways. and be able to process the information the same way. Because as they go through their academic years, they're going to have instructors that sometimes teach one way more than another, and sometimes do a very balanced approach to their educational style. The last one here to go over is, I guess, adjustment for growth, progress, and delays. Really something I'm trying to identify is, as I build a curriculum and we're on training day 7, 8, 9, 10, and I've identified that the kids are picking up one subject matter at a very rapid rate, but they're very delayed in comprehending a different subject matter, how do I adjust that moving curriculum? So an example is, maybe with Susan Magayon, I'm teaching her mathematics and she's blowing through it. One day we're on the 2s and we're not supposed to start the 7s or 8 until training day, maybe 6 or 7, but it's training day 5 and she's already on the 12s. What do I do then for the curriculum? Do I then say, okay, we'll finish up the math and let me add a different subject matter to the curriculum? Or do I focus on teaching her mathematics a little bit less and look at one of her weaker points and increase the amount of time I'm teaching those subject matters? Because one of the things I don't want to do is overexhaust the kids, particularly Orlando Magayon, because again, he is at a younger age, he's only 5. So because of that, his threshold and capacity to be able to learn for a long period of time is substantially less than Susan Magayon. Susan Magayon's more, because of her age, she's already been put in situations in classroom settings where she's being taught for hours and hours and hours, versus Orlando Magayon just left the kindergarten grade level. So for him, he's used to maybe 1 hour of lecture and then 30 minutes of recess, and then 1 hour of lecture and then 30 minutes of painting time and drawing stuff. So because of that, I'm going to teach Susan Magayon a lot more throughout the day, and she'll have a heavier, workload and course load, because as she progresses, that workload throughout her day is going to continue to get bigger and bigger. Versus Orlando Magayon, I might only be able to teach him on training day 1 maybe 2-3 hours a day, versus once we get to training day 30, maybe he can do 4 hours of coursework, but again, not too much, because he could get exhausted much quicker. Versus Susan Magayon, I might start her off at 5 hours of a workload throughout the totality of a day, and then once we get to training day 30, she might be closer to 10 hours of, once again, a balanced approach, whether it's 3 hours of visual learning, 3 hours of audio learning, and 3 hours of independent learning, and then 1 hour of doing something that's more of a hands-on approach, right? So that's something we're looking at. But again, as we go through the training days and we progress, one of the things I'm looking to is, as they pick up certain subject matters quicker than others, and I've already allotted a certain amount of time to teach them throughout the course of the day, what do I do then? Do I say, okay, you're grasping mathematics at a very rapid rate, let's teach you mathematics a little bit less now throughout the day and introduce a new subject matter? Or if she's struggling more in one of those subject matters, do we just increase the time in teaching that subject matter? How do we do that while we keep the curriculum very fluid and cohesive throughout the training day cycles? Last thing here that's very important to hit on is just I guess a reiteration of understanding the training day periods and how much is too much so they don't get overexhausted, and how much is not enough. Again, one of the things I'll look for is, if I wake the kids up every single day at 8 a.m. and we do 1 hour of mathematics to start the day, a lot of research shows that mathematics is probably one of the better subject matters to teach a child early on in the day, right? But if we do that for 1 hour, and I reintroduce mathematics and some different principles of mathematics later on in the day, will they be overexhausted? And does that change based on which child, I'm teaching? So those are one of the things I'm looking for. And then the last thing we're going to look at is on the assessment test. We're going to have an assessment test on training day 1, which is going to be today. And we're going to do that with Susan Magayon. And then we're going to have kind of like a midterm kind of, just a progress checkup, so to speak, on training day 15. And then we might do one more around training day 21 to training day 24, which is kind of the home run stretch, which is basically they have a week left before that 30-day training cycle essentially ends. Now the training, again, we're tagging and labeling each day as training day 1, training day 2, but really you could label it anything you want. It's, you know, educational day 1, it's school day 1, but it's basically, again, my version of a 30-day moving curriculum where it adjusts. And the reason I keep emphasizing moving curriculum is because, again, on most curriculums that public schools particularly teach, what it is one curriculum that is handed down to a professor or a teacher, whether it's a 5th grade teacher, a 3rd grade teacher, or a kindergarten teacher, and the dean or superintendent or the school board comes down and tells the teacher, this is what you're going to teach. We're going to have a test on the first day of school and the last day of school, and we want to make sure that you've taught these children in this grade level this particular amount of information on the curriculum. And a lot of times the pushback you'll see in the public education system is instructors will say, hey, you know, I agree it's important that kids learn mathematics, but maybe another thing we need to do is kind of help them out with creative arts. Maybe we need to, you know, emphasize music more in the curriculum. But a lot of times the curriculums are already set in stone. My curriculum is more of a moving curriculum, so it's able to be adjusted a lot quicker. And the only worry with being able to adjust a curriculum much quicker is still maintaining the cohesiveness and the fluidity. And hopefully by the end of training day 30, the end goal, the, you know, end all be all, is that we've not only increased, I guess I would say the main thing is we increased their strength and grasp on those 3 subject matters, or in Orlando's case, the 2 subject matters, but also in hindsight, we've increased their capacity to process information, and we've increased their ability to retain information as well. And hopefully we see that by the end of training day 30. So thanks for watching the video, and hopefully the results stand amazing. Thank you.